Awesome. Okay, well, good morning, everyone. So happy to see some familiar faces with us today. My name is Ali Cantu. I'm the registered dietitian here at the food bank with the chef team. So I know we got to share a little bit last time of what CHEF stands for, right? The Culinary Health Education for Families. And one of our recent updates is that we are now partnered with the San Antonio Food Bank. So that's why we get to use this wonderful space with us here in our teaching kitchen. And so I hope you are enjoying the new space with us and can see. Please let me know if you can't hear me at all either, or if you need me to demonstrate something else too. But welcome today. And as we had done last time, we're going to do another cooking demonstration this time today, and we're going to start a series for every Tuesday in October. We're talking about diabetes management. So just out of raise of hands, who is either familiar with diabetes, has someone in their family, or you yourself are trying to navigate diabetes and understanding it? Okay. Quite a few hands are going up. So we'll spend a little bit of today just talking about what the specifics and a little bit more of the science behind of type 2 diabetes. And then from there, of course, I don't want to tease y'all too much with the food in front of us, so we'll just get cooking and talk throughout our process too. And so I did get to introduce myself, and I just want to see from you, who do we have here today? If you don't mind just saying your name and one thing you're wanting to learn from today too. Do you mind starting up here? Mary-Lise. Okay. Okay, wonderful. Well, yeah, thank you for being here, Mary-Lise.
My doctor said I'm diabetic, but I'm doing too well to be on medication, so I've got to manage it on my own.
Okay, managing diabetes on your own, lifestyle and diet. Perfect. Okay, you're in the right spot with us today. Wonderful. Thanks, Faye. Do you want to start?
Tracy Ann, no diabetes, but the family's trying to.
Okay, wonderful.
Patty, no diabetes, good recipes to try, new food to try, that's all.
Yes, okay, wonderful. Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm. Healthy eating. Yeah, awesome. Okay. Learning new stuff. Okay. Jose, if you want to introduce yourself. Yes.
And before I take Christ, I used to be pre-diabetic, but I lost it.
Okay.
But it's these recipes.
Okay. Awesome. Oh, well, we'll jump right on in. And so I hear a lot of you either saying diabetes is in your family or maybe doesn't affect you, but just looking for a healthy recipe. So I will talk a little bit about diabetes. So there is type 1 and type 2 diabetes. Type 1 is usually a disorder or the pancreas is not working properly, right? So the pancreas produces a hormone called insulin. It's a factor that helps us to receive the sugar in our body. And so with type 1, it is not functioning properly. But type 2 is a little bit different. So today we're trying to make peace with a new diagnosis or something that you've lived with in the past. And so what that looks like with type 2 diabetes is that our cells, the way it works is we have a key. Insulin is like the key that opens up the doorway of our cells. And it opens up the doorway to sugar to come on in. And so if we don't have the right key, the sugar cannot come into our cells, and then we can't use it as energy, right? So as type 2 diabetes starts to come, maybe pre-diabetic or throughout diagnosis, it can be something to where the key is no longer working for that door of the cell. So if that's one way to think about it, that means that term we use is called insulin resistance. So that means that key, the insulin, is not working, the door is not opening, and your sugar is left outside. Sometimes we talk about it as like a neighbor bringing pie over. That pie is the sugar that is broken down in our body after we eat. And so that sugar is not being brought in. So that's where that insulin resistance, we have high blood sugar levels. You may hear about that. You may hear terms like A1C levels, or just your POC, or point of care, or point of contact glucose levels. And so for that, one way that doctors are always talking about is they say diet and exercise, right? But what does that really mean? And so we're going to break it down into the concept of our macronutrients. We have 3 macronutrients, right? We have carbohydrates, we have protein, and we have fats. And so can you tell me a little, what are carbohydrates? What do you think carbohydrates are? Turn into sugar, right? Turn into sugar. We call them glucose. Those carbohydrates when it's all the good stuff, like, what would you say is?
I mean, like your breads, dessert, like anything that, any type of bread, anything, that's fried and bread, all the good stuff.
All the good stuff. So carbohydrates is a wide range. A lot of foods fall into that. So all fruits, fruits fall into that. Vegetables, but they have a lower content, so they don't raise our blood sugar as quickly. But then we have also grains, any grain products. So maybe like what you're talking about, some of the breading pieces, pastas. And so what we like to influence is intuitive eating with diabetes, which doesn't make a lot of sense if you think about it, because diabetes, we're trying to manage our sugar levels, and if you're just listening to your body, in a state of diabetes, your body is so hungry, it's in a starvation state because it's not getting the energy, that sugar is not coming into the cells. So what we're aiming for throughout the whole process is to eat intuitively with diabetes, and to eat in a way that we are understanding what's on our plate. So we have our carbohydrates. How do we pair in some protein that doesn't raise our blood sugar as high, and some fats? Again, it keeps us level. So if we think of like a roller coaster, all of those carbohydrates foods take us straight up, and then those proteins and the fats kind of keep us pretty level. So we want to have a mix of that to have just an easy roller coaster, something not too crazy. It's not going to take us on a whirlwind. So that's one way to think about it, of pairing those carbohydrates with proteins and fats. So that jumps us a little bit into our recipe for today, but do we have any questions on that? Any questions? Okay, awesome. Well, let's get cooking. So you can definitely sit in the stool, stand, whatever you feel comfortable with. But today there's no cutting, all just preparation, and then we're gonna stick our salmon into the oven today. So we have some plates for you guys. So again, we're looking at our macronutrients. So everyone should have their pieces together. We're working on the barbecue salmon. And so what do we have in front of us? I know we have some salmon. Of course, what food group or what macronutrient would we find in the salmon? Some fats, right? Some healthy fats. Protein? Oh, yes.
What word are you saying? It sounds like macaroni to me. I don't know what you're saying.
That's okay. Macronutrients.
Macronutrients, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
No, that's okay. Have y'all heard of that before, the term macronutrients?
Yes.
Not everyone?
Hearing macaroni, and I'm like,
Yeah.
macaroni.
That's okay. Thank you for clarifying. Yeah. Macronutrients, again, we divide them into those 3 categories because those are the 3 categories that give us energy. When we eat it, the food is broken down and gives us energy. So we were saying, right, the salmon, we have some protein. We also have some healthy fats like omega-3s like you were mentioning, Faye. So awesome. We have some brown rice with us today. What macronutrient do we have in here? Right? Some healthy carbs, and we call them, I call them healthy carbs because they're complex. If we think of brown rice, and I know we mentioned it last time, but I always like our diagram here. So if you think of, it's a whole grain. It has the bran, the germ, the endosperm, all 3 pieces together. sometimes when we think of like white rice or refined grains, it's missing those pieces. So it doesn't have extra vitamins and minerals along with our fiber, which is really great in that whole grain. So that's our brown rice. And then we have some broccoli today. Where does broccoli fall under? Carbohydrate, protein, or fat? Carbohydrate. Right? So sometimes we don't think of it that way, that even vegetables, but it's so, because it has other components in it, like high fiber, the amount of vegetables that you need to eat in order to have a high blood sugar spike is quite a bit. So we can get up to about a cup and still not see it spiking as much. So yeah, you can consider it like a healthy carb. All right, so those are our 3 components today. We're going to get into mixing our spices next. And so I'm going to go ahead and put it here. So we have, everything's divided for you already. If you want to pick up the paprika and the chili powder, and let's see who can kind of distinguish between the two, because we have about a tablespoon of each of them. So feel free to open it. And also to smell. Smell them. Can anyone differentiate which one is which? Paprika. The darker is the chili. Perfect. Yep. So I have my chili powder here. The chili powder, again, we're going to use this as our rub and our seasoning for all pieces of the 3 ingredients we have with us today. But what we're trying to highlight too is a quick, healthy meal can be pretty simple too and take minimal effort in the kitchen. So just with that, I have a minute brown rice. Again, it just takes about a minute to warm up. And it's already packaged for you. And then I have frozen broccoli. So I didn't even have to cut it. It was just portioning out and then ready to go from there. So that's what we're using today. And then the salmon, HEB was wonderful. It had everything portioned out for us already. So we're good to go there. But for our first step is we're going to make our seasoning. So in one container, we're going to go ahead and mix our paprika and our chili powder. And then you're going to have your other spice mix in the other. So depending on how much seasoning you want, you can use a little bit less or take some out of it if you'd like. But you can mix right into the container itself. Spoon? Oh, yes, we can get you some spoons. I think we just have forks. All right. What was that? So right now, we're going to mix the chili and the paprika together. Mm-hmm. All of it, yes. It's 1 tablespoon of paprika and 1 tablespoon of chili powder. We're going to mix those together. And if you don't want as much, you can take some out too. Yes, so that's why I separated them. Yes.
Are we basting the salmon with the olive oil first or no?
Not yet, actually. We're just making our spice rub. Yes. Yeah. So with our dried herbs is a great way to add seasoning and add flavor into everything that we're making. Without having to add extra salt or extra fats into it too. That's usually how we get flavor, is extra salt or extra fats. So we're gonna go ahead and mix. I see you got a great method on there going on, closing up the container again and just mixing it all together. All right. Those 2, and then the others is already contained. You can mix. How are you doing it over there, Jose?
I add mine
To the other mixture? Perfect. That's actually going into our next step. So in the next container, you have some comino or cumin. So there is half a teaspoon of ground cumin. We also have 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, half a teaspoon of black pepper, and then half a teaspoon of dried oregano. So go ahead and mix it all together. We wanted to get first the chili spices together, mix those up nice and well. And then go ahead and mix it into the other seasonings. And you should have just enough space for it. So I'm going to go ahead and do my portionings out here. So we got these. All right. So what do you smell as you're mixing everything together? The oregano? What else do you smell? The comino? Anyone else? Paprika? That's what I'm smelling, and that's all I get. Yeah. The paprika. Anybody else? Cumin? Okay. Wonderful. Again, we're wanting to use all of our senses whenever we're cooking. That's how we have a more an experience that is invasive. We're just engaging every time we're in the kitchen. Oh. There you go. Wonderful. So once you have it all mixed together, all right. You should have a nice, good color. Everything's all mixed together. I like that you're shaking it all up back there. Nice. Okay, once we have it set and ready to go, we're gonna take our salmon and we're gonna cover it in our seasoning. So it'll stick at the bottom. The olive oil is actually for the skin, so that way the skin doesn't stick to our pan. You can put a little bit of olive oil also on top as well. So with our olive oil, we're using an unsaturated fat, what we consider that healthy fat, again, because it's liquid at room temperature. So we're just adding it to help hold the seasoning and so that our salmon doesn't stick. Yes?
Okay, so is that the best way to do it? Because normally I would like do it on both sides.
You can.
No, I was just wondering, so it's best to do it when it's like this and add the seasoning in where it appears better? Like, I just want to,
Yeah, so some tips in the kitchen. I love it. So you can rub both sides with olive oil. I like to rub especially the bottom so it doesn't stick to our pan. So that's the point. If you mix on both sides, it'll stick and stay on, but we're creating our rub today. So I have my olive oil here. It's about 1 tablespoon of olive oil that we're using, but you definitely don't have to use all of it. And so, yes. So I'm going to go ahead and coat it both top and bottom. And that's why we're using a bowl today. So that way we can capture all of the olive oil and then all of our seasonings too. We want to get all of it in. So as you can see, what I did is I poured about half of my olive oil into my bowl, and then I'm just coating both sides of the salmon with it. Especially the bottom, I don't want it to stick to my pan. There we go. And then, once I have it coated in olive oil, I'm now gonna put some of our rub on top of it. And this is where we're getting that barbecue flavor. Depending on how much seasoning you like, you definitely do not have to use as much. So we made a lot of seasoning today, and we're using our little container so you can take it home with you too. Yep. Yeah. Another good thing too of using the bowl is that you can just kind of put a little bit of the seasoning in the bottom of your bowl and then coat as much as you want. So who has cooked salmon at home before? I see some hand raised. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's okay. That's okay. Trial and error every time. I love it. What did you do? What seasonings did you add to it? Lemon pepper? Lemon pepper and olive oil? Yeah. Those are some great seasonings. We also can do some dill. Any other seasonings or spices that you like to add? Lemon pepper? Ah, okay. Got it. So now that I have my salmon nice and covered, I'm putting it onto my pan so we can put it in the oven. How is everyone's rub and salmon coming along? Looking good? Looking good? Okay. Wonderful. So I put a little bit of that extra olive oil, since I didn't use my whole container or my portion. I put a little bit at the bottom of my pan too, just again, so I don't want anything to stick. I don't want the skin to be completely stuck to the pan. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Here we are. All right, I'm going to set this aside. And the last thing I'm going to do too with my seasoning, I'm going to add a little bit of seasoning to my brown rice and also to my broccoli as well. Here we go. So you can add a little extra seasoning into your the rest of your components. So just in case if you missed it, that we are adding some of our seasonings. If you didn't use it all on your salmon, I'm adding it into my brown rice directly. Yeah. Yep. So I added about half a teaspoon into my brown rice.
Are we putting this inside down?
What's that? The fish? Skin side down. Yes, that's correct. All right, and then I put some also into my broccoli. So I'm just going to go ahead and, yes. So what I did is I actually just mixed into my rice bowl. And so you don't have to put the salmon or the rice into the salmon bowl. You can just mix it straight into its separate container. Yes. Yeah, so you, okay. Oh, okay. Okay, not a problem. Oh, would you mind passing out some plates then? Sorry, Brenda, thank you. Thank you. All right. So we're adding seasonings in to the broccoli as well as the rice. So that's a great point. You said not everyone likes the same amount of seasoning or same amount of spices. So what kind of spices do you use at home? What kind of seasonings or spices do you use at home? For anything? Yeah, for rice. Salt and pepper. So you definitely don't have to add it if you don't want to. It's just a very little bit to add some seasoning and flavor. Mm-hmm. All right, how are we doing? So yes, once I mixed all my veggies with the seasoning, I went ahead and put it onto our tray. Yep. Same thing with rice, because we're going to warm up the rice as well. What was that? Let's see here. So do we have any questions? Yes, so the seasoning mix that we made today, again, we made a large amount of seasoning, so this is something that you can take with you if you don't use it all. And this is because, again, it's easy just to create your own spices, your own mix, maybe your own chilies recipe or chili seasoning at home. So I love that. I'm going to have to look that up on what it is. That's wonderful. Yes, what questions do we have? Yes. We're going to put everything onto our baking sheet. We're going to put all pieces onto our baking sheet, and we're going to throw it into the oven for about 10 minutes to cook our salmon. And then rice. So the salt is if you want to add a little extra salt onto it, just on the top of your salmon. Very little. You don't need it, so that's where we're getting all our flavor from our rub that we made, that we're mixing it into all pieces of our recipe today. So I have my tray ready. I'm going to go ahead and stick it in the oven if y'all want to come on over whenever you have yours ready. to bring it on in. You got it ready? We got another tray in here.
Yes, will never be.
Perfect. Just be
You know what
careful.
happens with my salmon? I always tend to burn them.
The
Because I'm
salmon?
always afraid that I'm not cooking them well.
Uh-huh. So we're doing it only for about 10 minutes at this point. Alrighty. So any more, whenever you're ready, bring it on over. We can put it into the oven, and we're going to put it for about 10 minutes for right now. So again, you can make this at home in a quick and easy way too. What you can do is these are steamable bags as well as the minute rice. But because we don't have a microwave here, I'm going to go ahead and put everything into the oven right now. Yeah. The preservatives, so no, it should not have any extra chemicals. But one way to check is if you always look at that nutrition facts label. This one was a package of two containers per, and we're doing about half. So in one of these, it's about a portion of 1 cup. We're doing half a cup today. Everyone got about half a cup today. Ooh, that's a good question. I don't know what aisle you find it on H-E-B. It is on the shelf. Yes, it's not refrigerated. You can, the H-E-B also has some refrigerated options or frozen rice options. So you can do that too. And again, all with that, we're trying to make something quick and simple and easy. Yeah. We can go ahead and bring them on over. We're doing about 3 trays per oven right now. Alrighty, I think we have one last tray to get into the oven over here. Oh, how are we doing with our last tray? Okay, awesome. Again, so we have the three components, right? Carbohydrates, protein, and fat, our macronutrients. We have them all throughout our recipe today, right? So again, what are some of those fats that we have on our tray today? Also, the salmon has some omega-3s, right, which are, again, they're anti-inflammatory types of properties with it, so wonderful. What are our protein components? Of course, the salmon, right? And then brown rice will have a little bit of protein, but not the main component of it. And then that brings us to our carbohydrates. Which ones are carbohydrates for today? Right? Okay, so again, we're bringing all 3 components to every plate that we're making. If you have snacks at home or if you're eating snacks, that's another really great way to also bring in all 3 components. You always want to pair a carbohydrate food with a protein or a fat. So what did you think of today's recipe? I know we haven't tasted it yet and we haven't finished, but what are your thoughts so far about using a homemade spice rub? Quick and easy, I love it. Homemade spice rub, what do we think of that? Good?
I like the idea because I'm trying not to do a lot of salt.
Right, we're avoiding salt. So another, right? And then another great part too is we're trying to add those seasonings into our 2 sides as well. So we have the vegetables and we also have the brown rice that has a little bit of that seasoning. Again, you can put as much as you want as your preference, but we're trying to add that extra seasoning into it in order to, again, have a more flavorful meal. So sometimes when we see just rice and a veggie on there, it's not always as exciting, but when we add some spices to it, maybe add a squish of lemon juice onto it too, brings out some more flavors. So again, we're trying to have it a very flavorful meal while also being healthy too.
I would never have thought to put the spices in the rice and the broccoli. That's a new concept.
Just, right, something to try at home. Definitely. Yeah, yes, spices. And now you can make your own spice rub at home too. Another wonderful thing about maintaining our blood sugar levels, so just a quick and easy tip is to always think, do I have those 3 components, the carbohydrates, proteins, and fats? with maintaining those blood sugar levels, it also helps us to heal better and faster. So especially wherever you are too, I know this is for Thrive Well, wherever you are in your cancer journey, to maintaining blood sugar levels, if that's a concern of yours, can help the healing process in our body. Another reason why we always want to think of the macronutrients on our plate. But any questions? Oh yeah.
Well, and what we're doing today is not just diabetic friendly, it's cardiovascular friendly, right?
Yes, very much so. So we're trying to
It's more than just
diabetes.
like working on your diabetes.
Yes, it's healthy eating, healthy living. We're trying to go. Yes. Two, as we have an influence of fish on our plate, again, we're using olive oil and unsaturated fat. And again, that's a big word just to think of a fat that's liquid at room temperature. When you think of butter, that's solid at room temperature for the most part, right? It starts to melt just a little bit, but it stays solid. Unsaturated is the liquid, yep. And it's usually coming from a plant-based. And those are going to, again, have those antioxidant properties, but it's also influencing those healthy fats. And that's where we're getting what we consider that Mediterranean diet. We have fish, we have some unsaturated fats on our plate, and then we have lots of robust carbohydrates on our plate too, lots of veggies, and also those whole grain products. So what do we think so far? What is something that you would want to take with you from today and try at home? You got some seasoning? Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
I'm excited to try it on some chicken.
At home? I love that. That's awesome, exciting. Another way you can make this too, this is a recipe I just saw recently, is you can cut up your salmon and make salmon bits. So you kind of like a smaller like chicken nuggets instead, or you can cut it up and throw it into an air fryer and you have a crunchy salmon bite there too. You can use the same seasonings, use still olive oil, but you're getting a different flavor with that too. Yeah. Yeah, you can test it. I love that idea. That's a great idea. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so stupid question. If you're
That's
gonna
okay.
make salmon bites, you would have to cut off the skin.
Yes, you can leave it on with those pieces. Again, there's going to be an extra layer of fat with the skin. So just depending, it's everyone's preference. For me, it's a texture, so I can only eat about half of the skin before I realize it's a little bit too much. But there is an extra little bit of fat in the skin as well.
So it's healthy enough for the skin, 'cause I always try to avoid the skin.
Yes, it is healthy. You can eat it. It's just a personal preference for you. So if you haven't tried it, maybe today is a good time to try it, or maybe take a little bit with you and see if that's something that you're interested in. Yeah. So again, throughout all of these sessions, we just like to introduce diabetes. In this one, we talk a little bit more about the diabetes plate method next week, and then we'll continue this conversation. We'll have some worksheets actually towards the end and how to build a healthy plate, some recipes you could take home with you too throughout each time. So we'll be trying new recipes throughout it too. Yeah. So I think we're hitting a 10-minute mark right now. Let's go ahead and check in on our salmon. Let's see here. So I'll start at the top. Ooh. Alrighty. Let me pull mine out. Perfect. I like mine the way it looks. So I think the next was the front table, if y'all want to come on over to check on it. It looks cooked all the way through. This one yours?
Yeah, it looks okay.
This one? Do you like the way it looks?
No, it's mine. This one is first.
At the top, that's good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it
good.
looks good. Yeah.
Okay, I'll bring it to your table.
It can go.
Do you want? Oh, I gotcha. I'll just put it right here.
Now, what are we gonna put it on?
So I have some plates right here if you don't mind passing them out, Brenda.
Is that yours?
This one?
The back table.
Back table. Do you like the way your salmon looks? Sometimes people like it a little bit more crunchy.
Oh.
So it's up to you.
I mean, but you can put mine in a little bit longer.
Yeah.
I was like, you're more like
Mine is a top.
It's the top one?
Oh, we're gonna
Some of the
leave it
pieces
just a little bit longer.
longer? Yes. Okay. Perfect. So I'll show you a little bit of what mine looks like right now. So salmon is, again, it's a fish. We want to cook it completely through. If we had an internal temperature thermometer, we'd want to get it to about 145 or so. So with the salmon, we'd want to, if we had an internal temperature, we would take it and see to at least 145 degrees Fahrenheit or higher. But right now I'm eyeballing it to see what it looks like. All right, I'm going to go ahead and plate up over here as well. Alrighty, let's see. Perfect. So with that olive oil at the bottom, I was able to just completely slide my salmon right off just because of that olive oil. Are we needing more plates? Right now, because it's a new kitchen, I have no idea where anything is out here. I do have some knives if they want to cut their salmon. Okay. All right, I'm gonna grab this. So I'm building my plate here. Alrighty, so I'm building my plate over here, which y'all can do in just a second when it comes on out. All right. Ooh, so we have some people who've tried their recipes already. What did you think, Rayleigh? Very tasty? Spices on the rice. So I think that's a new one for people today, is trying it with spices also on the rice too that you're using throughout. Ooh. Awesome. So at this point too, again, I use some frozen vegetables. You can do frozen or canned. Again, those are another really great options. Finished? What I'm looking for actually is that the salmon on the side, that it's not a light pink, that it's a darker pink for me. Or that it's, that it's not a dark pink, it's a lighter pink now. That's what I'm looking for. Another way you could do that is you can cut into it to see. So I have a knife here and you can cut in, and if it's cooked all the way through, the middle should not be slimy. Exactly, that's one way to describe it. It's slimy. It has, you can see more of the grain that it's cooked through completely. So for example, if you want to take a look at mine, this is how, and I was just eyeballing it, but it completely fell apart. You could see the flakes. Yeah. So there's the flakes in it too. You can see on the inside.
Okay.
Yeah. That's how I'm just eyeballing it. And on the side too, it's not as pink.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I'll do it for the camera next. So if you're also trying to determine when your salmon is cooked just by eyeballing it without having to use a thermometer, you can look first of all on the side. So salmon is usually a bright pink color when it's cooked all the way through, but then you can see the flakes on the inside too. So that's what I'm looking at, just the flakes on the inside. Alrighty. So still waiting a little bit longer? Okay, not a problem. So again, we're talking about intuitive eating. Who has heard that term before? Intuitive eating? Maybe, maybe not. So we're talking about it today in the context of intuitive eating in diabetes. But intuitive eating in general is listening to your body. You're listening to your hunger and fullness cues. You're listening to making small changes. So again, today, if you notice, we didn't use any salt, but just very little on the top. That's an intuitive way to eat. We're gonna taste it, and then once you taste it, I don't like the flavor, I need a little bit more salt. That's when you can add some more salt. But you're listening to your body. You're taking a whole mindful approach to how you're eating. And it's just small changes that we're making right now. So one change is we use the whole spice rub on top of our salmon and then throughout our whole plate. And then now we can taste it and then add a little bit salt after if you need any. Yeah. Do you have any questions right now? Any comments on the food too? Not tried it yet, I know. Woo. Alrighty. So now I'll ask a few that have tried their plates already. How are you feeling eating it? How do you feel energized by it, or thoughts, feelings, emotions, and just eating right now? You want to eat more? I love that. Yeah. Good. Okay. It's definitely a different seasoning, different flavors. Yes, I love that. A light. Okay, a little bit heavier than normal. But I love what Rachel said right now too, is we eat with our eyes. We are engaged by the whole experience of eating, right, is what we're doing today. And that's another concept about intuitive eating, is you're mindful, you're exploring all components of it too. So that's wonderful. In other ways, when you're done or throughout your eating process, like, how do I feel with the food? Does it make me feel happy, or do I feel full afterwards? And how does it bring back any emotions or memories? I love food memories and hearing about food memories too. Anyone eating today, or even just preparing the food, any memories, food memories that come back to you? Rachel's eating. Any food memories that come back to you today as you're preparing or eating this? And food memories is something that it's a memory that's tied to an eating experience from before, maybe a childhood recipe or something new at home. Anything like that? No? Alrighty. So the rice for me today actually brings back some memories of eating with my grandma. She would season her rice with everything that she was using in the day. She's like, let's throw a little bit into the rice and throw a little bit into our beans. And so that's a food memory for me, is eating with my grandma. But any other food memories just helps us too, as you're eating, to bring back a whole immersive experience while we're eating.
My grandmother, my mother, and my aunt used a lot of comino.
Comino. Right? Yeah, definitely. Wonderful. Well, I know we're all wanting to enjoy our food and eat here in just a second too. So I'll wrap up the class. If you have any questions, again, feel free. I have Brenda and Diane here today, and Noe. If you have any questions, feel free to just chat with us. We'll be able to enjoy the space and enjoy the time while we eat too. Alrighty. Thank you so much for today.